Good evening to you.
These guys are all big influences on me and certainly house music.
No, that does not sound like a life.
Walk around with that collar popped up.
Yeah.
Hey, do this.
Yeah.
You go there.
So let's go on that. I want to talk a little bit about each of your illustrious careers, because you guys have done a lot. All three of you have done amazing, have had amazing contributions to what we call house music. This is the Vintage House Show. And so part of what that is about is celebration and preservation. This is Lawrence framing, but the celebration and preservation of Chicago house legends and Chicago house music. And I think
We always tell you the best in house music from Chicago and around the globe. This is a Wednesday evening pop-up kicking off for the Vintage House Show.
Well, we're in it now.
Yes, sir.
We are live. It's your main man, Mega, with the incredible team of Arise Radio here in the WNUR studios, Evanston, Chicago, broadcasting in HD1 and FM on 89.3. What a momentous occasion. As I've shared earlier, we are bringing together two powerhouses in Chicago's global house music community, the Vintage House Show, where we tell the stories, firsthand narratives of the pioneers, the legends, the innovators, the promoters, the producers, the remixers, and of course the DJs and artists. We don't make this up. We just ask the questions and they tell their own stories. And we have the largest archive of those stories in the world. Don't forget to check out, if you haven't already, Chicago, home of house, Navy Pier. We are working on extending that exhibit so that those of you visiting the pier can visit some of the static history that is Chicago house music. That is the global origin story of house music. But every Wednesday night, 10 p.m. here on WNUR, we bring you live and in person those pioneers and icons. And tonight's guest, Jozana, Sithole, Black Terry, Arise Radio, formerly known, it's been a while, but Groove Tempo.
Yes, that was our first foray into radio. We were at that other station down the dial. We took over the Groove Tempo show from DJ Shani. She moved to Texas. Myself and Steve Maxwell in January 2010. We started at WLUW and Loyola University. And then in August of 2011, after a year, we brought Black Terry into the fold. And we stayed there till 2016, March 2016. And then in August 2016, we moved here to WNUR.
This is what I'm talking about. The precise, there's no one that's going to come in and dispute in any aspect of this story, because these guys have their story down pat, and I appreciate that. So I didn't even have to prompt them to explain what their origin story was of getting to what is this global phenomenon known as Arise Radio. But I want to hear a little bit about each individual and your individual stories of how you came into house music. And I'm going to turn to my left, your right, and ask Black Terry to get into it with us a little bit.
Well,
like I tell anybody, this house thing for me, it started off. It's just some hood stuff to me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was a guy, DJ by the name of Antoine Williams. He used to open up for Andre Hatchett and then Ferris Thomas when they was at the Pleasure Dome. This was in the early 80s. I'm talking 83, 84, 85. So, he was just, a cat that stayed down the street from me. We both, I was more of a battle style DJ. Like I was into scratching and all that. You know what I mean? Break beats and things of that nature.
Respect.
So,
that's a craft.
Oh yeah, no question. So he introduced me to like a lot of different styles of music. Between him and Lee Collins. Two idolizing legends. You know what I'm saying, in my eyes, and I'm sure in a lot of people's eyes too. But that's how I got introduced to house music. I got introduced to the culture, the fashion, and all of that too. Because coming up, especially in my teenage years, anybody will tell you I was a Willie Wear cat.
A Willie Wear. Wow, you just took me back.
Yeah, I was a Willie Wear, Willie Smith cat.
Hey, Willie Smith was a bad
Yes, he was.
Designer. I had some Willie.
Yeah. I mean, it was to a point where I could. It was to a point where I could have borderline modeled. Real talk.
Man, I take you for that word.
Yeah.
And I want to take a moment just to rewind back, because one of the traditions on the Vintage House Show is also to get into your high school experience.
Agreed.
Because a lot of people crossed into this house thing as part of the high school movement, the coming of age story. So you're a Chicagoan native.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Hales Franciscan for high school. For grammar school, I went to a school called Academy of St. James. It stretched from 1st to 12th grade.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean? So it sat right on the corner of 76 and Phillips, a block down from my house.
Oh, I know the church well.
Yeah,
church building too. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely, man. So again, like I said, starting. That's how I got my break in house music and things of that nature. Like my first party wasn't no music box, it wasn't no power plant, wasn't no original warehouse. Yeah. My first party was the Pleasure Dome because it was a hood party.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
You happen to recall where the Pleasure Dome?
Yeah, it was on the corner of 75th and Exchange.
All right, southeast side.
Absolutely, right above LNG Liquor.
Yeah.
So, what were the Hales Franciscan students called? What was the mascot?
Spartans all day.
Franciscan Spartans. I was just on Facebook and there was a post in that Tony T&D Construction. They just did a refurb of the gym. And it was beautiful. They did. They're not finished with it yet, but they've been working on a remodel there.
Yeah.
So Hales Franciscan. I should have remembered that. I went to St. Francis de Sales. Okay, pioneers representing in here. There's very few of us that trickled into the house scene, but definitely much respect to Hales. So let's throw it over to Jozana and share some of his.
I started as a Whitney Young Dolphin. I started as a Whitney Young Dolphin, ended up at Bowen, but
also on the southeast side.
But actually, I started DJing. It was summer of '82, which was between 7th and 8th grade, and my best friend John Brain, his older brother Byron Brain was a DJ that was playing around a lot and playing different parties, and we, just watching him and just watching him and seeing how he played. And I was, from day one, I wanted to play like he played. And he played completely different than what the guys were my age were idolizing on the radio, because like Farley and the Hot Mix 5, because that's what we were all idolizing. Oh, cool. Our age group was idolizing the Hot Mix 5. And they were all doing a lot of tricks, a lot of DJ turntable gymnastics with the,
Yes, sir.
I really didn't get into that. I just like playing the music, a nice blend. and that's how Byron played. So it was like, I was like, wow, this is you can be successful without doing all the turntable gymnastics. And so he was the person and then I heard Andre Hatchett, and it was a rap, and it was like Andre was my idol. He was the one that the second one that I patterned myself after, and even after I heard Frankie Knuckles and heard Ron Hardy. Even after I heard both of them, I was still one of those people that felt like, they're good, but Andre's better.
I got to interject here. So you heard Frankie and you heard Ron Hardy, but where did you hear them? Where did you experience them?
I was too young to hear those guys in their spots.
Okay.
I heard Frankie and Ronnie when they came down from the mountaintops. I mean, I'm only 50.
Talk about it.
In November. So I only heard them when they came down from the mountaintops to play for us kids at Mendel, South Shore Country Club. When they came down to play for the kids, us teenagers, I never heard Frankie and Ronnie in their places, in their joint
where they had their residencies there. Yeah. Okay, respect.
Right. But a lot of people will say that. They'll say, "Oh, I was there," and I'm like, "Dude, you younger than me. How were you there?" The warehouse opened, I was 8 years old, bro. But so you were 6. How were you getting it?
So fundamentally, some people did have that opportunity to go, but it doesn't diminish the connection that you have to the music. Absolutely. Because you could have tuned out in those spots or not gone to the Mendel Bi-Level Disco or the South Shore Country Club or other spots, but you were endeared to that experience, right?
And I said it was it's not just the music, but the whole culture, I was telling a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, I said, 80, 81, 82, when the dynamic of two turntables and a mixer was put forth to the people, to us kids, it totally changed the social hierarchy of my generation. It totally
how was that transformational for you?
The guy who was the great DJ, he jumped everybody in popularity. He jumped the athlete. He jumped the cute guy, the Elder Barge looking dude. He jumped
the wavy hair with light skin was
yeah. He jumped the dude with the rich parents. He jumped past everybody in importance. It completely changed the social hierarchy.
So I gotta switch back now to Black Terry for a second here, because there is a lot that Jozana just dropped in that has to be unpacked. But there was actually one other thing that you talked about, and you led with, there was not just the music. Obviously, it's at the heart of what all this is about. But the culture and the movement consisted of some of the parties, the attire. We talked about Willie Wear, but there was this whole preppy movement and the punk out movement. Talk about what your connection was to straight leg jeans and some Stan Smiths.
It was a hairstyle.
It was all that.
It was all that,
But I want to hear the Black Terry perspective, and then Jozana.
Okay, so again, we talking 84, 85 for me again.
Okay.
Only thing I was hooked on was the Pleasure Dome. All I do was Antoine Andre Hatchett Fair's time.
Okay.
At that time, you know what I'm saying? I had
pioneers.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I heard tapes, from Ron and Frankie and all that, from two older guys, the Curtis brothers, God rest the both of their souls. Chris and Billy Curtis, they grew up in the South Shore area with me.
R.I.P.
Those were the guys that turned me on to the fashion side of things. Like, hey, man, look, dress the part, to come to these parties. Right. And they used to sneak me into a lot of the parties because I was a spoiled kid in the neighborhood, man. I had the freshest gear, man. And they knew it.
You're a Catholic school young man, so you had to.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, everybody want to put on it. But but those brothers,
you had some good mentors in the game.
Great mentors in the game, man. In fact, Billy and Chris, you know, they was diehard power plant heads.
Okay, 1015 North
They
Halstead.
was diehard plant heads. You know what I'm saying? Chris, you know, God bless his soul. I mean, he was both. He was a plant and a box head at that specific time. So I didn't even get a chance to experience what a lot of people may call the only music box, which was 326.
Right.
My very first time in the music box was the dying days of it.
Right.
I'm talking literally like spring 1986, and they was closing a couple months later.
Right.
And then there was another spot, you know, also in South Shore that, you know, that was short-lived, Club Risque.
Yeah.
Which
oh
was
wow, yeah.
Which was on 73rd and Ridge.
Yeah.
I remember seeing some pluggers with Club Risque
Mm-hmm.
as the venue recently.
You know, and there's a lot of a lot of people within my age range, you know, that come up, you know, along the likes of me. Man, gotta shout the good homie Glenn Underground. Gotta shout the good brother Jimmy Ferris. Man, you know, all of these guys come from my neighborhood.
Right.
They all South Shore.
Yes.
Man, you know what? Shouts to Titan Davis. I got to give it up to him because I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah.
Growing up in our age bracket, Titan was the only person in the neighborhood with real equipment. Like we had FG servo pitch thumb, you know, thumb pitch techniques.
Right.
Yeah.
He had 12s.
Okay. Yeah.
12. I'm talking real get up.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know,
Yeah.
you know, my man Keith, you know, Kathy stay on Kingston, man. It was a lot of us that come up throughout that era doing that, man. I mean, and again, you know, for me, you know, I was just, you know, more breakbeats. You know, I was into more of like the traditional retro house, like the, you know, a lot of tracks.
119 was, I'm
Right,
sure,
exactly. You know,
central
the
to you.
records, the DJ Internationals, Dance Manias, and all that. That was my thing, you know.
Yeah. All right.
And then, no.
I want both of you all to chime in on something Jozana talked about, which was what the Hot Mix 5 essentially drove home around the genre. This was the gymnastics, as he called them, but it was the craft of hot mixing. And so we talk about it sometimes just in terms of putting a record in, you know, running maybe 16, 32 counts, and then another record's coming in. But it was also the double tracking, the phasing, the things that, of course, we can do now with a effect on a deck.
But doing it with two records. I know what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
But it feels like a lost art. So I want to hear from you first, and then we'll pivot to
Jozana on that. Something that I was notorious at. Vocal dub, vocal, you know, I do little trickeries and stuff with records like that. I still do it on the show to this day. You know what I'm saying? I still do.
Why do you think, though, it's diminished in?
I wouldn't even say it's diminished. It's not diminished. The thing is,
talk to me.
The thing is,
yes.
And this is probably about to be another topic somewhere down the line in the hour of this show. The difference between those who shop and those who file share.
Say that one more time for the people in back.
There's a difference between those that shop and those that file share. Yeah. Because if you file sharing, you're only gonna get one version of a record.
Yep.
If you purchase it, you're getting the whole thing.
Okay.
You're getting all your mixes.
And in that, you're supporting the artistry and the proliferation of this genre. Because if people don't buy it, the distributors, that is a whole nother.
That's a whole nother. And that's what I said. That's a whole nother topic for down the hour in the show. Yeah.
So, but let me hear Jozana's perspective on that part of DJing and that craft.
What the Hot Mix 5 were doing?
Well, and it wasn't just the Hot Mix 5, right? Yeah, so they put it on air.
They made it popular.
And they made it popular, and
they made it popular in
some of the high school venues and other venues.
They made it popular where that's what was expected of you as a DJ back then.
Right, you weren't
expected to
considered and respected
yeah,
as a
you were
DJ if you.
expected to be able to do all the particular tricks
That's right.
for the trade, and you had to show that when you were partying. If you weren't, it was like, okay, he's just he you know, you weren't getting booked again. It was that you had to.
It boiled down to that.
Yeah, you had to show those skills. But like when I first started playing, the Italian disco was the most dominant of the music.
Italo disco was
Italo
definitely
disco was most dominant.
from Capricorn to Alexander
Robotnik
yeah.
to Doctor's Cat to
on and on.
All of those. That was what was dominant.
Yep, Euro disc as well.
That was what was dominant. Those are the songs of the Flirts and all of that stuff was what was dominant.
Calling all boys.
Right, exactly. That was the dominant music. It was, because that was in 7th grade, 8th grade, 82.
Oh man,
By the time I got to like sophomore year, which was 84, 85, now the old discos from 78, from 79 started to
dominate the programming.
Into the playlist. Whereas by the time I was a junior, senior, 86, 87, the old disco was dominating. So
I gotta put something out here. We have a connection that it took later in life for me to realize, because my sister and you were friends. My sister was
Kelly for years.
About the same,
we were the same age.
Right? And so 87, my sister R.I.P. But when I found out, it actually brought some joy to me to learn that you all were friends as well. But you're both making me feel old in here because he's talking about senior year in high school. I was on my second senior year in college in 85, 86. So
I graduated from high school in 87.
Yep. And we're thankful to be here. Thankful to still be at it in this process. But I love the different perspectives that we have, because when I was in undergrad in 81, we were bringing some of that Italo disco as well as the Chicago tracks down to Central Illinois and turning the student body at the University of Illinois on to house music. And so I feel my crew and we had a crew called BMG, and we were the pioneers down there then. But I want to know about your college experiences, if you service or college, or what was that like?
HBCU was fine. So I went to FAMU, Florida A&M.
Rattlers.
So I got there in the year.
Some of my best people.
So I'm a little bit younger than y'all. So I got there in the year of 1990.
Right.
So 1990, when I got there, I mean, you had a lot of house music down there. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And it was also the rise of Freakniks, Daytona.
That's right. Norfolk State to Atlanta,
what
GA.
A lot of people don't know either is that was also the rise of WMC. Because a lot of our spring breaks
you went right over to Miami for winter music.
4.5-hour drive from Tallahassee to South Beach.
Love it.
That's all it was. You know what I'm saying? And a lot. And I talked about this on the previous show that I was a guest on last time. Like, a lot of people don't realize MTV plays a huge part of the very beginning stages of WMC.
Oh yeah.
A very, very, very huge, part in that. You know what I'm saying?
That was a cultural catalyst.
It sure was.
For getting music to the masses in a different way.
Agreed. So, like I said, my first year of college, I mean, that 91, that was my first WMC ever. And again, I was tied in with our spring breaks.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Okay. So, I was able to experience it, from a wide range.
That's great, because that was an epic platform.
It sure was.
For getting this music to where it is today as well.
Yeah. So, like my college years, I DJ'd a lot of little small events down in Tallahassee and things like that, for peeps on campus and stuff like that. But, like nothing big until I moved back in 93.
93. You were back in Chicago. But let's acknowledge the importance of some of those smaller venues play, because those intimate venues give you an opportunity as well to interact with your dance floor in a special way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people are gonna come up to you and ask, "Man, what was that banger you just put on?" Right, and so you can share the music and the experience with them. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, no problem. Like a lot of mine was just, just campus parties that I was teaching.
Definitely.
Yeah, but
it was just straight up campus parties, and those are the best ones.
Campus parties, because you had people from across the country that were at FAMU. And so when they went back home, they were talking about those parties.
You already know. And had tapes, you know what I'm saying, at that time, the metal alloy 110s to send back home too. You see, I'm going way back there. I still got my MA 110s. Cassettes. With a Moran, so that I could record on at any time.
Did you have pitch control on those joints?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Let me get Jozana's perspective on college and what was
somewhat familiar with. I mean, both HBCU. I was Morehouse '87, and Atlanta was. And when I got to Morehouse in '87, it was actually there when I realized that house music was bigger than Chicago. You know, it was
at least national, if not global already.
Like the New York Cats, the Jersey Cats. You know, there's one of my guys, a good friend of mine, Omar. He's from Jersey, and he was from Newark, and we were at Morehouse together. And Omar Travis, and he was the first one to hook me up on Timmy Reddisford. Mm-hmm. You know, and I was hooking him up on DJs here, Chicago DJs. We were exchanging tapes, so I was learning about the Jersey Cats, the New York Cats down in Atlanta. Yeah, and I like the guy who. Like one of the guys who were throwing the house music parties in Atlanta, like the premier house music parties, were Baltimore cats. It was these dudes, Hodge and Thompson. So it was like you were finding out
Baltimore.
When we were in Atlanta. We were finding out when I was in Atlanta. That's when I was finding out that house was like bigger than Chicago. It was, because I always looked at it before I got them on. It's like, this is our thing. This is a Chicago thing. It's our thing. Right. Right. And it wasn't until I got down there. But then it was funny to find people who never heard of house music. When you get guys from, from the South and from other cities who are like, what is this house music stuff y'all listening to? They never heard it. Mm-hmm. But it was enlightening, on a bunch of different scales, but particularly with music. A school like Morehouse, you're going to learn music from all over.
That's right.
You're going to get music from all, because everybody's going to bring the music from their
regional experiences. Right. And so hip hop, certainly for, I'm sure, both of you on the campuses you were attending, played a dominant role. How were you able to interject house into those experiences? We start with you, Jozana, and flip to BT.
It wasn't necessarily just. It wasn't just me. It was when I got there. There was already a
contingency.
There was already a content. When at Morehouse, particularly, Chicago was the biggest out of town group. It was the biggest. There were more Chicago people than any other group outside of Atlanta. Mm-hmm. So when Chicago threw parties, it made noise. Even though hip hop was the dominant music for Atlanta,
yes.
When Chicago threw a party, as far as campus, and it was house music being played, it made noise. It was because there was so many Chicago people that the other people had no choice but to come to the party, because they would be missing out.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I can say the same. About FAMU too. I mean, we had a lot of Chicago peeps down there as well. That played house music on a dominant basis. You had a lot of hip hoppers at that time too. Again, when I got there, it was 1990.
Yes,
that was my freshman year. So
okay,
I come in. I was like the last of the Mohicans as far as house music enthusiasts. I come in with the straight B-boys, the hip hoppers. You know what I'm saying? Hell, I was down there with A1 from Dead Press.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Common.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we was the same year.
Right.
Yeah.
So like when the things didn't start for me, started really picking up until I was coming back and forth home between them college years.
Okay.
Like summer 91, you know what I mean? So I met Dana Powell.
Yep.
Summer 91. He changed my whole perspective.
Man, that's a
musically,
much
you know what I mean?
respect to
Because
Dana
again,
Powell, right.
you know, I was stuck on, you know, I was stuck on more, you know, the retro sound, more, you know, more the rare grooves and things, you know, the rap groove discos, you know, and definitely a huge Lil Lewis head, you know what I mean?
okay.
So Dana was the guy, I credit him because he woke me up to a whole nother sound. A whole nother sound of things. He had made a tape for me. And I told him, I said, man, I'm going to take this tape back to school with me when I return. You know, this is summer 91.
Yeah.
I returned to school, you know, sophomore year. I'm playing the tapes for one of my Puerto Rican homies down there.
Okay.
And
at FAM or
at
just
FAM.
in the
No,
okay.
at FAM.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And man.
And was this a mixtape or did it have the
No, this was a mixtape.
Okay.
This was a straight up mixtape.
Yeah.
And we was trying our best to, you know what I'm saying, to know where we could find a lot of this music there in Florida. You know what I'm saying? You know, as well as you know, when I got back here to Chicago, I'm like, all right, I know about Duke, know about Gramophone, all that, you know.
Yep.
But damn, who is these artists? That's what made me started really doing research on liner notes. You know what I'm saying? Let me read.
Back in the days when there was still a little vinyl circulating.
I'm like, man, let me read the liner notes. Let me see who the key grips is in these studios. Let me see who played the guitars on this. Let me see who did who played these keyboards. You know what I'm saying? From there, I just start shopping through them. You find they solo joints.
Yeah. I miss those days.
And
right?
Trey started building.
Yeah.
And there it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
let me ask you all this. There's a number of venues these days focusing on vinyl exclusive nights.
Yeah.
There's a lot happening in terms of you got new record stores popping up. Vinyl is I'm not gonna call it a resurgence. I'm just calling it an integration, a reintegration into the scene. What do you think about it? And then we'll hit Jozana and are you picking up?
I'm still a vinyl purist.
Okay.
Anybody?
A vinyl purist.
I'm still a vinyl purist to this day. Yeah,
Yeah.
I play a lot of these exclusives and stuff like that.
Right.
You know? I'm still in them stores digging. My fingertips don't look like this. They really don't. They scarred, they beat up. Look how black these knuckles are. You know, that come from doing this.
Right.
Opening records. Yeah, you see what I did, right?
Right.
Huh?
We can see that.
Yeah.
That's right. Because tearing into that plastic seal, what a moment, a special moment it is.
Yeah, it is. Man.
But it's what's interesting about what you shared about the vinyl and playing it. I mean, it's where you started.
Yeah.
So it's in my mind and in my experience, it's easier to go back to that.
You know what?
It's like riding a bike.
I'll say this. Shouts to the pressing plants that are reinventing themselves. How about that? Because we did lose a lot of those.
Yeah, we lost a lot of those.
We lost a whole bunch of pressing plants, man.
But vinyl, anybody who says it doesn't sound better is great. It definitely sounds better.
It's so warm and rich.
It sounds better. If I walk into a club and somebody's playing vinyl, I can instantly tell. I don't even have to see. I can hear it in the sound. Right. That the vinyl's being
a good trained ear. Right. Well, you don't have to be that trained,
but
a good ear definitely can tell.
It's expensive and it's inconvenient. So it's good that it's I like that the market for the venues that are playing it, they have that niche market and they have the people who come for those events, for those vinyl specific events, they have a different expectation. They know that this DJ is playing vinyl, so I'm gonna go on the journey with him, as opposed to people who go into clubs who feel like you have everything. So if you're playing vinyl, nobody's coming up to you making requests.
Ain't that the truth?
And nobody, you go to one of those vinyl joints, nobody's asking them for requests because they're like, this man brought records. He's playing the records he brought, and I have to go on the journey that he's taking me.
That's right.
Whereas if you're playing from a computer or a laptop or you're playing from a flash drive, people assume you have everything, and they're gonna make requests to fit their needs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good that people who do, the ones who the vinyl nights, their audience is a more educated audience.
Yes.
It's a more receptive audience to letting the DJ take them on a journey and not trying to dictate where the DJ takes them. So I think it's a plus. I think it's the whole vinyl movement. I think it only helps. It only helps. It opens people's ears to something different than what they're being spoon fed.
Well, there's certainly an audience or a part of the community that talks about using music to educate the market, to elevate the market. Talk about why you spend. What is it besides your personal gratification? What else motivates you to spend? Hell, you spend 6 hours, you and my man, Arise Radio, 6 hours on Saturday nights.
I feel like we have a format. We play new music because we feel that these house music artists are not being promoted enough, particularly in our region. We're in Chicago. There's a strong contingent of DJs and venues and parties that play skewed to the old classics. And I feel that there needs to be a balance. We gotta have a balance.
I definitely appreciate that
balance.
And to add to that,
Yeah.
I appreciate balance because some shelf life, the songs of old have a shelf life and a level of nostalgia that endear people to it. Okay, I'm gonna be quiet though because I'm interviewing y'all.
I'm loving it.
BT, what is your why for why you spend 6 hours every week and more?
Well, to add on to what Jozana just said, I mean, put showcase on artists you may have inspired.
Yeah.
How about that?
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Because when you look down or boo-boo on these up-and-coming musicians, songwriters, things of that nature, man, they could have looked up to you throughout your day and you don't even know it. Yeah. And you just took a major boo-boo in their face. Yeah. And they looking at you saying it was all for nothing.
Yep.
As opposed to, hey, you might be slipping a little bit right here, brother. Let me help you out there.
Yeah.
Bridge that gap.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You never know who checking you out and just how closely they have been.
Yeah.
For all your DJ career. You just never know.
So speaking of which, we got Tego on this checking in.
Hey, that's my man.
What up?
Born and raised with Tego, man.
Tego says PC both. Scott
man.
Lee, who's a loyal Vintage House Show fan, he says, hey, Kentucky Lewis. All right. It's good to meet you, Kentucky. Thanks for
What up, Kentucky?
What up, Kentucky? What it do? What it do,
checking
family?
in. Jerome Orr on the chat.
Hey, Jerome Orr, another one that grew up in South Shore with us.
And
South Shore representing.
Hey man, look, real talk. Not only an extraordinary producer, extraordinary DJ, and an extraordinary human being.
There you go.
Real talk, man.
We are honored to have him. Also, Louis Green is in the chat room with us.
Happy birthday, Jerome, because it is his birthday today.
Jerome, or happy birthday.
Yes, it is.
Happy birthday to you.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, our super duper executive producer is on and monitoring our chats. Lauren Lowry.
Hey, Lauren. Hey, Lauren.
What up? What up?
The love.
You should have been in studio because the energy here is electric. You know, this is a historic moment. I know our other co-host, Lori Branch, is also. I'm sure she's in the ecosystem somewhere. But my sister has been super busy, so respect to them both. The Vintage House Show is on every Wednesday night. We got 20 minutes left. Drop your questions for the Arise Radio team, Jozana, Sithole, and Black Terry in the chat. I know you got more than the comments adding to the conversation. You probably have some questions for these good brothers, or if you have any questions regarding the Vintage House Show and why we chose to come together with Arise Radio. We're ready to chop it up and discuss it because we are both pushing the genre and the community that we love so well. I'm just going to answer the question without it even being prompted. But I know that there's love on behalf of Arise Radio because it manifests in the tunes they run and the energy that they give you every Saturday night. Thank you for that.
Many people always ask me, like, man, you guys sacrifice your Saturdays to come here every Saturday night. And I mean, between me and BT, we're in our 50s. We've partied enough. We've got more than our.
That's number one.
Yeah.
Right. We have more than we have.
Let me add number two.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun here.
Yes.
In spreading the music. We have I never feel like I'm missing out on anything.
This is a great place.
Yeah.
We are the club for Saturday nights.
Right.
Again, you know, and I talked about this on a previous show that where I was on the Vintage Shop series before.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Yeah, see? Well, I talked about how nightlife looks here in Chicago. Yeah. With the way gentrification has put a strong hold on things especially within the last 25 years. At a bare minimum, what nightlife do we have? None. You know what I mean? I mean, as far as for what we do, you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, you got the early evening events going on. I'm talking for real nightlife culture. You know, where parties are still staying open to 4 and 5 a.m. at a bare
But you
minimum.
know what? To be completely honest, at our age,
it's hard.
It's hard.
I mean, at our age, the party starts at 8.
Yeah.
It's packed at 8.
Yeah, agree.
And it's empty at midnight.
But see, that goes back to something.
People ready to go home, and we in our 50s.
Back to something I indicated earlier.
Yeah.
Embrace the youth that's trying to learn about
Succession planning is what we call it in the corporate world, right?
Embrace the youth that's trying to educate themselves properly in this culture, man. You know what I mean? Don't son them. You know what I'm saying? Because we got, we in our age, right? We got a bad habit.
Well, we were just trying to hold on.
We will son a new face to shame.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? They could truly be trying to learn about this.
I see a little bit of a change on the horizon. There is a evolution happening. I'm gonna go ahead and acknowledge it and declare it here on this episode of Vintage House. There is the next generation that's coming into play, and you all do your part by bringing in people not just from the next era, but from across the country that come to Chicago. You bring them in to the studios here at WNUR, and you embrace them, and you don't son them. He knew where I was going. Yeah.
Again, just like I stated earlier.
Big Mike in the background, too.
I could be the reason
What up,
why
Big
you
Mike?
even thought about touching a pair of drums. I could be the reason why you even thought about buying yourself a drum machine just for music I've been playing on record.
And that's a little bit of our why for the Vintage House Show. We want to capture these stories. We want to expose our audience to these narratives from the icons and pioneers and the purveyors of house music, so that you can hear the perspective. You can find it relatable maybe to your experience. And even if not, it is often I'm inspired and I aspire to continue to even get on the decks because of some of the conversations and what I hear from guys like Jozana, Black Terry. So that's a little bit of the why. I appreciate us also moving into where I wanted to go is the current state of house music, and where do you see yourselves in playing to the future of house music and individually. I heard you talk about the altruistic part of it. You're gonna bring others in and bring others up, but what's in it for you?
What's in it for
Real
me
talk.
is constantly playing as much as possible, spreading the gospel of this music to whoever's willing to listen. Whether it's here on the radio or whether it's parties I book, whether it's trips I book to South Africa. Remind you, we go to South Africa December 20th today. Hit the AriseRadioChicago.com website.
Right.
Get yourself booked for Arise in South Africa 2024. For those who want to, who are open-minded to open their ears to this house music, I am always willing to play. And I'm always willing to spread names of artists, titles, what have you. Yeah. Because for those that are willing, whoever's open to it, I'm willing to play for whoever. And I'll constantly do that. And we're going to constantly do that here. We're going to constantly do that at the parties we throw. But to me, I feel like, I do sometimes feel like the outreach to youngsters, to bring them into the fold, it has a double-edged sword. Because they have to have their own house party. We have to show them the way, but then they also have to throw their own house music party to get 25-year-old, 20-year-old DJs to play for all of us in our 50s. Really, even if they're playing house music,
that may not be the right path. Right?
It's like they have to be playing for their own. And even though they can come to our party, we can go to theirs, but they gotta have their own house music, and we have to show them the way. But they just can't. We can't just have it where they're not doing their own house music thing. Yep. You can't have it where, because so many times I see these young DJs who play house music, who are playing house music, and at events where our age group is there, and then when I see video of them playing at younger parties, they're not playing house music. They're playing other stuff. They're not spreading house music to their audience, to their age group. And it's like, okay, are you truly spreading house music?
You're right.
I want to pivot this conversation a little bit and throw it to Black Terry and understanding, and I appreciate the perspective that Jozana shared. I want to hear and understand what your evolution in future is, and then you can also speak to that point that Jozana was making.
Okay, for me, the evolution of it moving forward is
for you. I want to know what's in it for you. This is,
and I'm speaking solely for that.
Okay. Hey,
I
Lisa.
just want to present this music again to those that's open-minded. Number one. Number two, most important of all, reach the youth with it. Reach the youth with it. You know what I'm saying? Because they're going to be the next ones to carry on. Hell, I don't know how long I'm going to be able to carry on with this. I've been doing it for so long. I'm like, come on, man, one of these shorties, come on, take over. You know what I'm saying? We playing a lot of y'all music anyway, especially the ones, and again, I talked about this on the previous show when I was on the Vintage House series before, getting, parsed into subgenres.
Yes.
Which is, I believe, is the biggest divide and conquer of the house music.
Really?
Hell yeah, it is.
You think it's a conquest to house music's existence?
That's the foulest thing they could have did was put subgenres on it.
Okay.
Deep house, progressive house, Afro, indie dance, through this. It's all house.
Okay.
Bottom line, it's all house. You know what I'm saying? The minute you start putting them subgenres on it, you already done divided everybody. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that perspective, and I want to unpack that a little bit. I want to get a question in from Scott Lee, going back to the Arise radio show, and I know I'm taking us on a little bit of a rewind for the discussion.
It's good,
but this question is relevant to my curiosity as well. How do you program a 6-hour set in 2024? Because back in the day we were running, it was one, maybe two DJs, and now you got to do.
Back in the day, it was
split an hour. Yeah.
Back in the day, it was conditioned.
Yeah.
2024 is more widespread. And when I say conditioned, meaning you knew exactly what you was gonna play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As opposed to 2024, you eeny, meeny, miny, mowing the whole night through.
Yeah, and
because it's so much.
What's interesting about what you do here, sometimes you have a small audience, but sometimes it's just you two.
Yeah.
And so where does that sort of inspiration in moving the dance floor come from if you're, rocking it here in the studio? And I'm going to throw that to Jozana.
With me, it's about what I like. Honestly, that's just me personally. I don't play music I don't like, so I'm playing what I feel, and hopefully the listeners enjoy it as well.
Well,
so that's my prime motivation. In definitely when I'm on the radio, but even when I'm at parties, it's a motivation. What do I like?
Okay.
And I go from that's where I start. I start with music that I like, and then I pick from that what I think this crowd will like. From there, but it's all starting from what I like. You never have to ask if I like a song. If I'm playing it, that means I like it.
Yeah,
because I'm not playing that I don't like.
Okay,
right.
No, not at all.
All right, and
you know what? The exact same flavor for me, because I'm not playing nothing I don't like either.
Yeah, really.
Number one. Number two, I can't sound like nobody but me. So if I F up, I know I F'd up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna dictate, you know what I'm saying, how I F up. No. Right. Not no ways, period. You know what I'm saying? I mean, especially when I turn right around and you hand clap somebody else for doing the exact same thing. You know what I'm saying? That you critiquing or giving unjust criticism to me on. Right. And you see that a lot in this culture.
So
especially on the Chicago scene. And
it's sad. Yeah. So we're gonna go into a dark place for a little bit. And this is human nature on one hand. I'm not making excuses for it, but Chicago, being the birthplace of house, we got a lot of DJs here. We have a lot of producers, remixers, and artists. Unfortunately, because the industry, has historically been, the shots have been called, the signings, the label operators have been predominantly sort of New York and West Coast. I had to go there a little bit because I think it lends itself to this. I'll go ahead and call it feeling crabs in the barrel syndrome that we feel exists. I think there's been a little leveling of the playing field, but
I think that in my experience, Chicago's house scene is more vocal in its crabs in the barrel, more it's quote unquote hating or jabs at each other. They're more out there with it, but it's everywhere. All those things that so many people in Chicago complain about, the divisiveness, the cliques, the gatekeepers, all of the problems. You have those same problems in New York, in New Jersey, in
Baltimore,
in Detroit, in Baltimore,
Atlanta,
every other significant house scene. They have the same complaints. They have the same problem. All that stuff is everywhere.
So we air our dirty laundry than these other markets.
I would say that definitely compared to New York and New Jersey and the East Coast cities.
Okay.
Chicago airs this stuff out a lot more. Yeah. It's definitely put on blast publicly a lot more.
Can I go on record as saying it is simply because the depth of our passion for what we created is so deep. It is so deep that, you know, when it's under any kind of threat or attack, you know, we just we come to its defense.
That could play a part in it. That could play a hell of a part in it.
Yeah, Chicago is definitely a lot more vocal about it.
Yeah, that's fair.
As opposed to
anybody else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But all of those problems, all of those feelings, all of those issues that plague our house music scene here in Chicago, they are all pervasive in all the other scenes. Yeah. They are all there.
No doubt. And again, I just want to say, as someone sitting in this chair that I'm in, one of the things that we try to do in earnest is to certainly foster a bit of, breaking down those barriers and those walls. I want to go back to something we did, a project of passion for the culture that is house music, and that is our exhibit down at Navy Pier, Chicago Home of House. And look, we ain't finished yet. We are not finished. So if there's additional input that you have, Black Terry,
I saw it early. I need to go get it again.
That Jozana has. We did real-time updates already. We had some major errors and omissions that we went in and fixed just a couple of weeks ago. We documented it and put it up on our page. Talk about, if you will, what your understanding of this genre will be, let's call it 20 years from now, because I think everything that we're doing, all of us in our respective platforms, is, and you said it, is for the preservation.
Absolutely.
Right. So what do you see for house music 20 years from now? Go, BT.
20 years from now.
20 seconds.
Okay, 20 years from now, man, I see the youth in full takeover. They already in full takeover now, you know what I'm saying, in certain entities. I mean, especially as it search to, what we want to label as soulful and Afro house. Who do you think is making this stuff? Children. Trust and believe. They are the takeover, slowly but surely.
I appreciate that perspective. 20 seconds. Jozana, go.
House music, it's bridging, it's making the world smaller.
I like that too.
It makes the world smaller. I think that the proliferation of house music makes it easier. It makes it easier for people to travel the globe and go party at other spots. And I think that's what I love the most about it. And that's what's gonna 20 years from now, no one in this house music scene will be going to the other side of the planet to go party will be no big deal. It'll be no big deal like it is now. Or going to Europe for a festival, or going to South America, or them coming here for festivals. It won't even be a big deal. It'll be that normal.
Are we talking Star Trek level transporter, beam me up, Scotty type action?
Absolutely. As technology advances,
that's
house music will be right in will be the soundtrack.
I love that. And so,
you know what I'm saying?
So one of the things I want to do in our last few minutes, I want to introduce actually a new perspective and segment of the Vintage House Show with your main man, Mega. And that is, this metaphor that house music, in some people's eyes, it started in houses, in the basements. But in a vintage house, you almost are for certain to have a fireplace with a mantle on it. And what do you put on your mantle? You put on those awards, those flowers, those nostalgic pictures. And I want to start this segment of the Vintage House Show mantle. And on the mantle tonight, we're putting up the great work that Black Terry has done, that Jozana has done, and creating Arise Radio, a platform that is truly global, that is truly committed to breaking new songs, new artists, educating and uplifting the market, and certainly addressing their passion for house music. So one time on the mantle,
All day, baby. All day. We truly
the,
we are in total gratitude.
the first ones up on the Vintage House Show mantle, Black Terry and Jozana.
Check this, man. Can we come down? Man, can you come down one of these Saturday nights and play throughout one of our 6-hour extravaganzas?
Okay, you know it's gonna require a bit of a permission slip from Mrs. Mega.
Yes, man.
But I'm gonna go home like when you were sent home from school. You've given me fair warning, Jozana.
We've had many a wives right there.
I'll see if I can bring her along. I've been trying to get her to the studio. And so I'd be honored because as I've indicated, every guest I've had on the show inspires me, and I've had a couple of times where some guests didn't show up, and I hopped over to our soundboard over there, and I got it in.
And we could talk to you some more too.
Let's get a date on the calendar, and I will. I'm gonna have to admit that maybe the first 3 hours is probably my window.
Okay.
We.
Chill NYC NJ, absolutely mantle worthy. And DKO 684, he says looking forward to South Africa. Yeah,
that's right.
NewAgeSoul.com, El Presidente.
That's El Presidente.
Johnny Key in our chat room.
Johnny Key, man.
Yes, sir. We got our chat room. Big ups to everybody in the Arise Radio Chicago chat room.
Yes.
Those in the Vintage House chat room.
Myself, Jozana, and I'm sure our good brother Steve Maxwell too, man. As it refers to Johnny Key,
yeah,
he was the first hand of broadcasting for us.
Okay.
Before transitioning to FM radio, it was Johnny Key's expertise of a website and radio show that he had going, still has going to this day, New Age Soul. NewAgeSoul.com. We all were, we all had individual shows on his platform before, we came together as even Groove Temple. Before we came together as Rise Radio, it was Johnny Key's platform.
On
New Age Soul.
Give him his flowers for sure.
Got to give Johnny Key his flowers all the time.
If you can connect us, I'd love to put him on the Vintage House Show an episode.
Man, man, he's in the chat room. Yeah, man. Hey, El Presidente, you heard
Reach
that,
out.
right? Reach out, man. We got to put you on this Vintage House series platform, brother. Yes, we do.
And so I want to close out this episode of the Vintage House Show in appreciation of our guest and all of you who've tuned in tonight on both the Arise Radio Chicago channels, the twitch.tv, Arise Radio Chicago, and on the Vintage House Show, where we've just simulcasted an incredible, momentous night. You all have been a part of history where Arise Radio Chicago and the Vintage House Show have come together, telling more stories about this thing we all know and love. It is not just the music, it is a movement. And of course, house is a feeling. Where can those who are from the Vintage House Show audience side, where can they make sure to check out Arise Radio, if not live, maybe on demand?
Okay, we have, they can always hit our SoundCloud page if they missed the show on Saturday nights. We always, get videos replayed on Twitch. Hell, I got all my videos saved on Facebook Live, and ain't none of them muted.
You can hit twitch.tv/Arise Radio Chicago. That's where our Twitch page is at. Then our SoundCloud is as Arise. Our SoundCloud is actually, if you type in the search and say Arise Radio, it'll pop up. But
it'll say Arise Radio, formerly
Groove Temple.
Groove Temple.
Right. So you hit that. That's where we got 14 years of shows.
We sure do.
Yes. 6 hours. We got 4 hours when we were on WLUW, and 6 hours since we moved here to NUR.
Yep.
So we got an archive. That's an archive of since 2010.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I appreciate you brothers again.
We appreciate
what?
our sisters too. Shouts to Lori and Lauren.
Absolutely.
Shouts to the homie Rocky Floyd too, because I know he's a part of.
He is our Vintage House Show Spotlight.
Yes,
Jock, DJ Momami.
Okay.
All together we form the Vintage House Show, which we're locked in for Wednesdays at 10 p.m. to 11 here on WNUR in the studio. And so we rotate throughout the month. We got 5 Wednesdays coming up in October. So our super duper executive producer and I and Lori will probably come together on that 5th Wednesday.
Okay.
And do something a little special for the audience.
Yes, indeed.
But
and
we
also this comes Saturday.
Coming Saturday, the 28th. Yes.
Right. So make sure you tune in to Arise Radio for our special guest, Grammy Award-winning musicians, finest, Mr. Maurice Joshua.
Mo J.
Very special guest.
Great
Kick
friend
off
of
the season
This
from
will
here.
be his first time with us here at
W.
We had him as a guest years ago on WLUW, but this is his first time joining us on Arise Radio.
I think we're gonna have to get a 3-hour out of him, just like how we did Hula.
We absolutely.
Did Hula over the summer, man. Hula 3 hours.
My pioneers of South Suburban. And shout out to everything about house, another platform telling the important stories about house music. That's it for us, though, tonight on the Vintage House Show. We appreciate, again, our guests, Jozana+Black, Terry, Arise Radio.
Yes, sir. Every Saturday night, midnight to 6 a.m.
And Vintage House Show Wednesdays from 10 to 11 with DJ Lori Branch, your main man, Mega, our super duper producer, Lori Branch, Mo Mommy, and DJ Rocky Floyd on the spotlight. Everybody be safe. Remember, house is a feeling felt down here. We're out. Thanks again for tuning in.
Release. Yes. That was a good one. Good one. Mike, I forgot you did that. Yeah, I was just listening. I'll tell y'all my backstory.
Not as you should, so you can see me. Open up the parlor.
Good.
So
there you go. That's you got to tell your story. Absolutely.
I know y'all shopping everywhere I went. Amazon.
Yeah.
What's the record store? Blue Court.
Import.
Yeah. Hagridge Records. I went everywhere.
Oh man. Blue Records.
Oh, man, you were a Hagrish at a time where...
Big guy was sitting there on a chair. A bar stool.
Oh, man.
I used to hate the Hagrish community as a whole.
Log out on my Facebook over here.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And peace. Stay safe out there. And we'll see you in another 4 weeks with your main man, Mega.